lifestyle and writing. And I wanted to come on and talk about another aspect of the high vibe lifestyle. By now, pretty much everybody has seen the interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that Oprah did. You've either seen it or you've definitely heard about it, right? And I wanted to come on and give some, some perspective, my commentary on Meghan Markle in terms of a high vibe lifestyle that I'm on here to promote. And I explained the high vibe lifestyle as something that's based upon a life that's based upon core values and being in alignment with your core values, as opposed to a life where one is continually chasing um, some external measure of success or external measure of being. And so I talk a lot about authenticity and courage. In fact, clarity, confidence, and courage, and what it takes to live that type of life. So that's what I call the high vibe lifestyle, because we can be so distracted by the noisy world that we live in that is forever telling us what we ought to be, do, and have in order to be good enough. Essentially, the external world tells us that we are not good enough, and here's what you should be, do, have according to the latest social media influencer or celebrity. And that is, frankly, empty. And if you're following that, you're going to find out at some point, as my uncle would say, you're going to find out. You're going to find out that you can't accomplish it because the bar is always moving in terms of who you should be next. Once you've accumulated a certain amount of things, you always got to have the next thing to keep up with the Joneses, right? And so the high vibe is one where you decide for yourself what your values are and you learn to make decisions accordingly. Okay, so about Meghan Markle, then, what she revealed to us, I mean, some people, most of us were surprised at least at some aspects of what she said. We're not entirely surprised that, she had that the royal family did not embrace her 100%. We're not surprised at that. We're not surprised that she would, of course, have some difficulty adjusting to the royal lifestyle. I mean, that's a lifestyle that people are born into and groomed from birth. And so if you're not, it's very foreign and strange and awkward. And even though you have all this privilege as you step into a royal role, you realize that you don't have any freedom at all. Meghan Markle shared that she didn't have, like, once she, you know, began her life with Prince Harry, she had to give over her passport and her keys. She's like, it's not even something that you need anymore. And so for a lot of us, we're like, wait a minute, I don't have, even if I wanted to go somewhere, I can't go somewhere. No, you can't just decide to, pick up and go anywhere, right? Anyway, so there's some things that we were not surprised about, and then there are some things that we were surprised or reminded, like, that thing about, well, what color is the baby gonna be? What shade of brown is the baby gonna be? We know white supremacy is all over this world, certainly within the British Empire. So anyway, my point though is to talk about Meghan Markle in terms of someone who is embodying a high vibe lifestyle now, because she came to a point within herself where she said, I can't live like this. I don't care what these people offer me, right? I can't live like this. So think about it. It is the entirety of royalty, literal British royalty, that she was stepping into, and that her children would be, heir to on some level. At least they could participate, right? And there's a lot of wealth and status obviously attached. But for Meghan Markle, she said, I would rather just have myself. And I remember her saying when she was walking around her farm with Oprah, and they were, petting the chickens. She says, I like to rescue things. Meghan Markle said, I like to rescue things. And she said, for me, it is about being authentic. She needed to craft a life where she could be herself. She talks about, she grew up, working as a teenager. She's worked. She's somebody who's worked as I can't remember, I think she said as a store clerk or something. So, she comes from working people, right? So she's used to having some privilege. I mean, she was an actress, right? So she had some status and privilege as a sort of celebrity of sorts. But to say, wow, in order to be married to this particular man who I love, who is a prince of England, I have to give up myself. I can't do it. And she talked about what it cost her to even try to do it, right? She said she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. She shared with Oprah that she was thinking about not wanting to live anymore. So you have to think, wow, right? Because a lot of us would have just somehow made it work or and remained miserable because the perks were too big to walk away from. But she said it's more important to me to be authentic and be myself, and I will walk away from all of this. That's high vibe. That's somebody who says, this will kill me. I don't care how much money is attached to it. I gotta go. Now behind me you see my book, 40 something, 10 radical lessons for how to live and love without losing yourself. And my primary teaching in that book is to be authentic. Frankly, 10 radical 10 radical lessons on how to be yourself essentially in a world that can pull you off track of who you really are. We can get so far off track that we don't know who we are anymore. We don't know what matters anymore. We don't know what to do next. We do know that we might feel unfulfilled, not have a purpose, right? So are there all these, self-help people out here saying, let me help you find your purpose. And I do too. I mean, I do that for people too. I help them uncover their purpose because really I feel like people know it, but it's covered over with fear and self-doubt. So when I coach people, it's really about helping people uncover, helping people remember it, and helping people have the courage to walk in it because those are challenges. So I wrote that book as my own story of somebody who along the way in my 40s felt like I had lost myself in a relationship, in a job identity that I just identified too closely with in terms of a title and whatnot. And I had the experience of having to reclaim, remember myself. And I said, well, I'm going to write it. And it started off, I'm writing it. It was for my own catharsis and my own healing, I guess you'd say. And then I thought, well, I'm going to share this. I'm going to write this as a book because this is a very common experience, especially the people I was coaching and friends of mine who are also in the 40-something decade. It's very, very common. You stand at a crossroads at that point and you're like, I have to do something different because everything that I've known prior is failing me, right? Nothing else means anything. I've got to get myself on track. Back to Meghan Markle. She had literally everything that we would consider valuable externally. But internally, she was suffering so greatly that she and her husband, the Prince of England, said, we'll just go. We'll just go. It costs too much. And Harry remembers what happened to his own mother, Princess Diana. They literally ran her to death. And so Harry, said, that's not going to be my legacy. That's not going to happen to my wife. That's not going to happen to my family and my children. We got to step back and go. And now, people have so much to say about it, to judge them or whatnot, or, talk about the royal family is upset about it, or whatever. And that'll be whatever it is. On some level, it's family business and it's not our business. I'm really here just to talk about Meghan Markle decided to follow her own authentic path to basically save herself and her children and her marriage. She decided to take the high vibe. The high vibe says sometimes I will walk away from everything that looks like success, but it is in no way success to me if I no longer want to live, if I feel suffocated by everybody around me, if I have to ask permission for every little thing that I do, it is not worth it. So that's what I wanted to say about Meghan Markle. And I will say also, I will share this in terms of my experience that I write about in the book. As I was watching the interview and hearing Meghan say these things, I was having my own sort of flashback in a minor way, in terms of what Meghan was expressing her feeling and how this thing is being part of the royal machinery, right, is something that you step into and it doesn't change because of you. You have to get in line with it, right? It's a whole machinery, right? You don't exist anymore as an individual. And I said, wow, I had a very similar experience when I was dating someone. It was a long-term romantic relationship with somebody who is a Hollywood director, well-known person. And let me tell you, fame is a monster that eats people whole. That's what I posted on Facebook. Fame is a monster that eats people whole. And being in his world for a number of years meant I stepped into the machinery that is his life and career. And he's been in it his whole life, or his whole adult life. So he's not necessarily aware of it from, an outside point of view anymore. It's just his life and his work, which still means the world to him. For me to step into it meant I needed to be totally available for his schedule, for his life. I lost myself in being his girlfriend and being his woman, right? And so people, how our society is obsessed with celebrity, and people will, sell their, I don't know, sell everything they own or give their right arm to be famous. Even though we see people who are famous, we see them crash and burn all the time. That's why I call it the fame monster. Fame is a drug because it's so appealing and alluring, but it also can destroy you, right? And so, in that relationship with him, there came a point where I had to decide I have to save myself. He can't do it for me because this is his world. This is his career. This matters to him greatly. This book had yet to be written. I knew I was responsible for my own authenticity and well-being. I'm responsible for that. And no matter how grand it was to be in spaces with famous people and really Black Hollywood, I always say I think there's only two, I know what's called A-list Black Hollywood celebrities who I did not meet, and Will Smith and Denzel Washington are probably the only two I did not meet. Just over the years of moving in and out of different kind of environments here in LA and traveling. So there was a lot there to be enamored by, and I suppose I was enamored by it earlier on. But as I began to realize This is a trap. When do I get to be myself and do the things that are most important to me to do? And it wasn't like he was standing over me, being very controlling, telling me, no, you can't do this and other thing. He's not that person. But it's just the demands of his life. And so looking at Megan, I got it. I'm like, yeah, there's a machinery at play. There's a structure that you walk into which limits your mobility and your ability to do what you otherwise would do on a daily basis. And I was experiencing that too. There was another schedule that set my schedule for me, a greater schedule that set my schedule for me. I have to be here at this time. I have to be there at this time. Oh, you better go, okay, there's an event at 7 o'clock, but that means there's a full day of events before that main event that night. So whatever I had planned, nah, that couldn't really happen. So as I'm just sharing a little bit of my own life. If you're interested in that story and who it was and all that, get the book. It's on Amazon. And I share some really personal things and how I came to that decision finally. How and when I finally came to that decision on a certain morning, and I had to just get up and go. I had to literally just get up and go. Don't even think. Just get up and go. Period. The end. So when I see Megan, I understand because what she was dealing with was far greater than what I was dealing with. And if I had that moment of you got to get up and get out of here, I can only imagine for her to come to a degree of courage, right? So whatever, little minor gossip and backbiting and just mean spiritedness that people extend towards her, really, really think about how you would do in a scenario where you lose your personal freedom. Just think about that and what it would take to leave it when the rewards look so great and the penalty for leaving is so great, right? So I'm going to wrap it up there. I just wanted to come on and, share my perspective on these things. Again, I think it's important, especially for women, to maintain our own sense of our own standards for how we're going to live, our own code of being. You can't be out here hustling for your worth according to what other people think is the standard. You've got to come to your own standard. Otherwise, you'll go crazy. I'm just telling you right now. Or, you'll be calling me or emailing me saying, Dr. Darnise, can I work with you? And yeah, I'll help you get it straight if, to the best of my ability. So that's all. I hope you have appreciated my 2 cents, I guess I'll say. And I'd be interested in your comments. Just keep it respectful. And that's it for now. Bye.